let's talk about the fast, dynamic and murderous Vanguard veterans, and all the fun ways that we can set up a unit for 9th edition. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, the strategy-focused 40k channel where we're all about getting the most out of our miniatures on the tabletop. In today's video I wanted to focus on the Vanguard veteran unit from Codex Space Marines, which have become a really fun and interesting option in the new codex, and are possibly my favourite unit for messing around designing builds for. In the old codex with just one wound they always tended to be a bit of a glass hammer type unit. Now they have two. It very much feels like the thought experiment that you might get if you said what would jump back Primaris Marines be like. On top of that, they're pretty much one of the most flexible units in the entire codex. They can take pretty much any mix and match of various melee weapons, storm shields and pistols, and on top of that I think they're really competitively pointed. Only 21 points for a high attack murderous Space Marine with a new Astartes chainsword at AP-1, with almost as good per point durability compared with standard intercessors. So let's take a look at all the fun things that we can do with them. First of all, for just a brief recap of the unit, they're an elite choice for Codex Space Marines, clocking in at 19 points per model or 21 points with a jump pack, and I think in almost every circumstance it makes sense to give them a jump pack, unless you are decided that you're definitely using a drop pod or a rhino or something. Just 2 points for getting a far better chance of getting in combat plus the fly keyword is a really good deal. The standard veterans have 2 wounds and 2 attacks, and the sergeant even gets a nice bonus above that. He's got base 3 attacks plus shock assault, so we'll be hitting things really hard, and therefore is really quite a good place to put a fancy power weapon if you want to give him one. Now I like the way that they're so flexible. As I said, they start with just a bolt pistol and chainsword, but you can swap either the pistol or the chainsword for any pistol, any melee weapon, and one of the hands can hold a storm shield. This opens the gateways for some really fun combos, and they're combos that you don't have to feel too bad about taking, as they get their power weapons discounted compared with other Space Marine units. On top of that, they also have the Melter Bomb keyword, which means that you can spend a command point to have a chance of doing 2d3 mortal wounds to a vehicle. Could be a potentially very decent return on investment, that one. So let's talk about some of the various ways that we can build them then. Here are some of the types that I think are best. Obviously you start with your chainsword and bolt pistol, but you can swap out that bolt pistol for another chainsword. Bolt pistols are okay, but this will give you 5 attacks on the charge with their chainswords, all at AP-1, so for 21 points you really are getting a serious amount of marine rage. Another interesting option is to take a single lightning claw alongside a chainsword. That will cost you 24 points, and I think that that's a really solid competitive option as well. Both the lightning claw and the chainsword each give you an extra attack, but the lightning claw you can use to make all of your regular strikes with. So a standard veteran for 24 points would get 4 attacks with their lightning claw, taking nice advantage of the re-rolling wounds and AP-2, and then 1 extra with their chainsword. Compared with power swords, axes and maws, lightning claws do stack up with better damage compared with all of them. The extra attack and re-rolling wounds just tips them over the edge. Obviously, when you're thinking lightning claws, you could take a pair of them. That will cost you 27 points, and while being thematic and cool looking, it's not quite as good a deal rules wise. You're basically spending 3 points to upgrade one single attack from a chainsword to a lightning claw, which I just really don't think is quite worth it, unfortunately. I think that the 24 point lightning claw and chainsword armament is likely to do you a bit better and just include more marines with the points saved. Next up we have the option of storm shields. These will cost you 4 points extra compared with a chainsword or bolt pistol, and they'll give you a 4+ invul save and a 2+ armor save. This makes them tougher than Terminators were before the Space Marine Codex updated. Again, this seems like a really good deal. Basically you're choosing between whether you want more melee attacks with say an extra chainsword and not paying the points cost for the storm shield, or whether you want a really tanky unit and shift the focus far more onto durability. Honestly, I think that both are viable. They're still reasonably durable with 2 wounds and a 3+ save. It's enough not to be trivially removed, and of course you're not paying the extra cost of the storm shield. But if you are going for quite an elite unit, you could consider arming all of them with storm shields, or even just including 1 or 2 storm shields in the units to be the ones that take the first bullets. For 25 points, a Vanguard vet armed with a storm shield and chainsword could be just a cheap model that you'll know that you're going to be removing first, so it's not really quite as big a deal when he goes down. Moving into more expensive options, we could go for a lightning claw and storm shield for 28 points. That's a very good all-rounder unit that's very tough. We could think about giving them power fists and chainswords, a bit of extra anti-armor punch and some light infantry attacks all in one. Or for 34 points, I think a power fist and storm shield is really quite a well-rounded unit, very hitty in close combat and really quite tough to remove. I feel that Thunderhammers are fairly well balanced against power fists. You will get a bit more damage out of the points investment for the Thunderhammer, and Thunderhammers will be better against 3 wound infantry than power fists, though the extra AP will hurt them against 2+ saves. Of the two, I'm a bit more of a fan of the Power Fist this edition, but there really isn't all that much between them. Finally, we did mention the Sergeant before. In general, if you're giving anyone something super fancy such as a Thunder Hammer, it should be him. He gets 3 attacks for it, so you get more bang for your buck. The Sergeant can take a Relic Blade, which is essentially a Strength 7 Power Fist with no -1 to hit. I think this competes fairly well, though isn't necessarily better than the Power Fist. I'd consider it a bit more in Blood Angels, where you're not going to miss the extra strength so much as they get +1 to wound on the charge. Finally, if you are Death Watch, I would most certainly think about making use of that Heavy Thunder Hammer. AP 3 and flat damage 4 is just going to ruin anyone's day, so if you are running Vanguard Vets as Death Watch, I would most certainly take one. Now I'd argue that Vanguard Veterans have their own unique synergy with pretty much every chapter, though some certainly stand out. Whenever we're talking angry jump pack boys, Blood Angels are going to be mentioned, and even with their very limited amount of stratagems at the moment, they do have some awesome tricks. +1 to charge is awesome for delivery. If you're deep striking Vanguard Veterans onto the board, then having an 8-inch charge that you can reroll with a command reroll gives them a reasonably decent chance of getting in. +1 to wound is great for pretty much most options, though particularly low strength ones such as chainswords, lightning claws or power weapons. White Scars get advance and charge, so might be a bit more viable for starting on the board, but the thing that has me most excited for them is the fact that their unique assault doctrine gives them +1 damage on the charge, which is excellent on lightning claws or chainswords. They'll shred near enough anything. They also have ways to boost charges, including a psychic power and stratagem, both of which are decent options. Space Wolves don't technically get Vanguard Veterans, they get Jump Pack Wolf Guard instead, which are essentially the same unit with a few different options. They don't get Relic Blades or unique pistols, but they do get combi weapons and things, and you can have a unique take on a slightly shooty unit for them, as they can take a bolter instead of a bolt pistol, so you could have a cheap and fairly shooty squad with both bolters and a lightning claw or something. Space Wolves in general though do amazing with Power Fists and Thunder Hammers. Their chapter tactic giving them +1 to hit just really amps them up a lot more than other combat weapons, and also their unique doctrine with exploding 6s to hit also works better for Power Fists than other things, as again it's a bigger relative damage increase. From their new codex you can get Assault Doctrine early for them, or +1 to wound on the charge, so certainly have the potential to hit far harder than Blood Angels, as if you invest a couple of command points they can be +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and also get an extra AP from Assault Doctrine turn 1 or turn 2. To be honest, they're my favourite 3, though others are certainly good as well. Again, Black Templars can be very good for delivery, maybe re-rolling charges and coming down next to a chaplain with +2 to charge. And their unique Assault Doctrine is strong with chainswords in particular. Auto-wounding on 6s is far more valuable on low-strength weapons. Raven Guard might be one of the most fluffy options for Vanguard Veterans as well, particularly with Lightning Claws. They don't have quite so many buffs for the actual damage output for them, but they do have the potential for first turn charges, either with doing a pre-game move, or using the Warlord trait to set them up just outside the opponent's deployment zone. On top of that, they've got a few jump pack related stratagems, and Kavan Shrike could be a decent supporting character for them. So putting it all together, I thought we'd just theorycraft a few small units of them. I've arbitrarily decided that we've got about 170 points to spend on Vanguard Veterans, so here's a few examples from White Scars, Space Wolves and Blood Angels. First up, we have a very cheap squad of White Scars, but you get quite a lot of Vanguard Veterans for your points. 176 points buys you 8 Van Vets, all with double chainswords, and the Sergeant has a chainsword and power fist to give them a bit of anti-tank punch. For less than 200 points, that's a crazy 36 chainsword attacks on the charge and 4 power fist attacks. It'll absolutely make mincemeat out of infantry, and when you get into the Assault Doctrine, it's going to go through pretty much everything else. This unit on average kills 10 intercessors on the charge, 14 orcs, or does around about 13 wounds to a toughness 7 vehicle. That extra pip of damage really makes them into true generalists. Next up, some sheer hitting power, we have Space Wolves. 170 points can buy you 5 Jump Pack Wolf Guard, all with a Power Fist and Storm Shield. This will give you 16 Power Fist attacks on the charge, and if they're in their unique Assault Doctrine with the exploding 6s, that'll kill 11 orcs, 11 intercessors, or do a whopping 18 wounds to a toughness 7 vehicle. All those stacking buffs just really bring those Power Fists to the next level. There's really not a lot that wants to be charged by these guys, and if you are looking for yet more damage output, you could use that stratagem for +1 to wound. Finally, for a bit of a mix, we've gone with a tough squad of Blood Angels last. This one's 176 points for 6 Vanguard Veterans, and again they've all got Storm Shields, so are going to be pretty hard to remove. 5 of them are going with the Storm Shield and Lightning Claw combo, and the Sergeant has a Storm Shield and Relic Blade. The Blood Angels Assault Doctrine is pretty vicious, getting you +1 attack, which combined with Lightning Claws gives you some pretty crazy numbers. You get 25 Lightning Claw attacks on the charge, all at AP -3, and 5 Relic Blade attacks. This squad would just absolutely pulverise infantry, killing 18 orcs, 9 intercessors, or doing 15 wounds to a toughness 7 vehicle. Maybe not quite as good at killing heavies as the Space Wolves, but these guys will be harder to remove point for point, and having a +1 to charge baked into their profile is pretty handy, to be honest. Blood Angels Vanguards will be competing somewhat against Sanguinary Guard, who are an absolutely excellent option, but these guys are certainly tougher with a 4+ invul save over their 2+ save. So I'm really quite looking forward to playing around with some Vanguard veterans in the near future. I just really like how versatile this unit is and how you could field it in multiple different ways. With how tough they can be, I could really see it being viable to bound multiple units of them up the board and get stuck in on midfield objectives, or just keep them as their more traditional deep strike threat role. So let me know what you think of the unit down in the video comments below, particularly if there's any decent success that you've had with the unit or any builds that you're really looking forward to trying. If you've enjoyed the discussion, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where we'll certainly be keeping reviews like this coming every single day. Finally, if you have been enjoying my videos, I'd just like to mention that the channel has a Patreon page, which you can find down in the video description below. Channel Patreons get a few advantages, such as being able to see certain videos early, regular voting to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the channel's regular prize draws with the chance to win some big kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support and keep these videos coming, then the link is down in the video description. Feel free to check it out. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.